Hello, sixth graders. So today I'm going to be introducing a project that we are going to be working on for the next week. So today is the first day you can start this project, and this project is going to be due on May 19th, a week from today, so next Tuesday. So this project is very similar to topic 15 project. So last project, what you did, you asked your classmates a statistical question and you gathered data from them, okay? You're going to use this same exact data for this project. But instead of just finding the mean, median, mode, and range of the data, you are now going to also display the data in a histogram, a frequency table, and a box plot. All right, so again, I'm going to give you a template for the project, and you're going to use that template to complete your project. So the first slide, when I attach this link to the end of this Edpuzzle, it's going to tell you to make a copy of it. And once you get to this slide, your title is going to have copy of, and then it's going to say topic 16 project. The first thing I want you to do is to replace copy of and put your name in the title right up here. All right, and then you're going to complete your project. Once you are done your project, you are going to hit this share button, and you are going to share with me the project. All right, so I can see your final version. Once you share it, I get an email. If I don't get an email, that means that I did not receive your project, so please share it with me. All right, so I'm going to go through exactly what you need to do on each slide of the project. So the first slide is just what the project is, and then you're writing your name. Again, everything in red you are going to replace with your own information, so your name will be right here. The second slide, okay, you're going to put your statistical question. So again, the one from this, the one that you originally asked a couple weeks ago, and then you're also going to put your data that you received as well. A new addition is you're going to say if you do or do not have an outlier in your data. So I look at my data, I do have an outlier. So I'm going to delete that, and I'm just going to write I do have an outlier, and then you're going to explain why it is an outlier or why it is not an outlier. So I said 45 is an outlier because it lies outside of the normal distribution of data. 45 is really far away from this pack of data, okay? It's not close at all. It kind of stands on its own, okay? So that's why it is an outlier. If you didn't have an outlier, you can just say that I don't have an outlier because all of my data is close together. The next slide is you creating a frequency table to display your data. Now, I have been giving you intervals, but what you're going to be doing, you are going to be finding your own intervals, and I'm going to give you a step-by-step process in order to do that. So, how to find your interval width. Okay, the first thing you're going to do, you're going to find the range of your data. So if I look at my data, 45 is the largest, 2 is the smallest. So 45 minus 2, my range of my data is 43. And again, you'll replace this with your information. Then you're going to take 43, or whatever number you get as your range, and divide it by how many intervals you would like. Okay, if your range is really small, you may only have 3 intervals. If your range is larger, you may have more intervals. Like I have 6 intervals. So I wanted 6 intervals. So I divided 43 by 6 and I got 7.5. Okay. But to make it easier on me, I made the interval width 8. So the width, or how wide each interval is going to be 8 for me. Okay. So I went from 0 to 8. Then I went from 9, added another 8 and got 17. Went from 18, added an 8 and got 26, and I continued. Remember, intervals do not repeat the same number because you can't have the same number in 2 intervals. All right, so once I created all of those interval widths, okay, all I did was just put the data where it goes. So there were 6 people in this interval, 5 people in this interval, 1 in this, and then there were none in these 2 intervals and 1 in this last interval. If you have an outlier, your frequency table may look very similar to mine, and that's okay because you're allowed to have nothing in some intervals because this outlier is so far away that nothing lies in here. And that's also how you know it is an outlier as well. It lies outside of this data. Okay, so follow these 3 steps to find out what your interval width should be. And remember, the width has to be the same every single time, and it also has to include all of your data. All right, so find the range, divide it by however many intervals you want, 3, 4, 5. Remember, the wider the range, the more intervals. The smaller the range, the less intervals. And if you look up here, every slide has the number of points that slide is. Okay, so all of the total points will add up to 100 at the end. So now once you have your frequency table, now you can create your histogram. And that's the easy part. The frequency table is the hard part. Once this is done, all you're doing is just following directions for the histogram. And you need to title your histogram. So what I would title it is my statistical question. How many cousins do you have? This title on the y-axis will always stay the same. It's just student responses. The title on the x-axis, though, changes based on what your title is. So I would write number of cousins. If your statistical question was, how many siblings do you have? Right here, it would be number of siblings. So all you're doing here, you're just taking your intervals that are right here, and you're putting them in these boxes. These are editable. So I just put 0 to 8, but you're putting whatever your intervals are. And then all you're doing is just dragging the boxes where they should go. So the first 2 I already did, 6 and 5. The next interval was 1. So I would drag a box to 18 to 26. Make sure your boxes are touching. And then I would drag it all the way to 1. Okay, and you would continue to do that. Again, if you don't have anything for certain intervals, you don't even have to drag a box. They could just be blank. All right, so that's how to create the histogram. The next slide, it says, use the frequency table and histogram on slides 4, right here, and 5 to complete the following statements. The majority of my data lies within the interval/intervals, because remember, sometimes the majority of your data can lie within more than one interval. So I know, looking at my data, majority of my data lies between these 2 intervals, 0 to 8 and 9 to 17. So that's what I said, lies between those 2. And you want to explain, so the majority of my classmates have between 0 and 17 cousins. Now, your frequency table may not look like this. Yours may be the same height all over. So you might not have a majority. You may just say my data is equally spread apart, okay? But you need to explain what your frequency table and histogram shows you. The next one is you're going to start to create a box plot. So you're going to find the median, the minimum, the maximum, the first quartile, which is the median of the first half, and the third quartile, which is the median of the second half. And everything in red is what you're going to replace with your data information. This is just my data. So I found the median's 9, the minimum's 6, the maximum's 45, first quartile's 2.5, third quartile's 13.5. Once I find that information, I can now create my box plot. So this is what your box plot is going to look like, okay? The only thing that's going to be different is that these blanks underneath the line plot or underneath the number line are going to be blank, okay? Because I want you to decide, how are you going to count your number line? I counted by 5s. You may just count by 1s. You may count by 10s. It depends what your data looks like, so you need to make that decision. I counted by 5s, and then you also see a dot for the minimum and a dot for the max. And basically what it's saying, you're going to edit your number line and adjust your box as needed to make your box plot fit this information that you found. So my minimum is 2. So I'm going to start by putting this dot at 2, which is probably right here, a little bit between 0 and 5, okay? Then I'm going to put my maximum, which is 45, that dot at 45 right there, okay? And then it says my first quartile, or the median of my first half, is 2.5. So I'm going to just this, once you click on that box, use this middle dot and just shift this to 2.5, right in between 0 and 5. All right. And then my third quartile, or the median of my second half, is 13.5. So I'm going to, I'll move this first. And then I'll shift this to 13.5, which is right between 10 and 12 a little bit. There you go. And then my median is 9. So I need to move this line right before 10 to 9. So I adjusted my box to fit my data. The last thing I need to do after my number line and my minimum and maximum, it says don't forget to draw a line from your minimum and maximum to the box. You need to, don't forget about your whiskers in the box plot. So you can click this line right here, make a line. Okay, you can click that button right there, and you can just connect the line straight to your dot. And again, you can adjust this. You can make the line thicker if you would like so you could see it better. Same thing with this. Connect the line to this dot right here. Now it's going to be a very short distance. We'll make it thicker so we can see it. And that's what our box plot, our final box plot looks like. And what you're going to do now, okay, you are going to answer this question. What is one observation you can make from your box plot? So I start the sentence for you. From my box plot, I noticed that. So you're going to write an observation that you notice. You can notice more than one thing. First thing I notice is that my box is all the way to the left, meaning that most of my information or most of my data lies between 2.5 and 13.5. Okay, because that's where my box is. It goes from 2.5 to 13.5. So most of my information lies there. I also notice that my outlier is all the way over here. Okay, so you're just going to list some things that you notice about your box. What does it look like? Where is the box located? Is it in the center, to the left, to the right? All right, so once you're done that slide, the last thing you're going to do, you're going to tell me what measure of center best describes your overall data. So you're going to find the mode, the mean, and the median, because these are all measures of center. So my mode is 2. My mean, when I added up all the numbers and divided by how many data points I had, I got 10 and 7/10. But I rounded it to 11, because remember, depending on what you're finding, you can't have 10 and 7/10 of a person, so it will be 11. And then my median, which I already found over here, is 9. So I have to describe these 3 data points. Which one best represents my overall data? And I said it was the median. Okay, but you can't just say it, you have to explain. So I said because the mode, which is 2, is way too low to represent my data, and my mean, which is 11, is skewed by the outlier of 45. And remember, skewed just means it's affected. So that outlier of 45 makes it look like my classmates have more cousins than they actually do. It bumps it up higher than it really should be. So the median is 9, and I think that is the best representation of the center for my data because it is right in the middle and it is in between the high and the low number of cousins. All right, so just make sure whatever you say for what center of data you like the best, make sure you explain your reasoning. Always explain, okay? So there are a lot of parts to this project, but I am giving you a whole entire week, which is more than enough time to make this your own and to show your best work. So after you're completely done, you can edit the font, you can change the background, you can add things to make it personal, okay? But please, I want to see your very best work on this project. Okay, take your time, double check your work, email me if you have any questions, and please don't forget once you're done to share this document with me. All right, good luck and have fun.